Hello chess friends, and welcome to another game analysis. Today a new super tournament has begun in Israel. Netanya is the place where it is held, and I choose the game from the round 1 between Maxim Rodshtein and McShane. Maxim opens the game with a c4. Luke played knight f6. We have knight c3 and after that e5. So this is the English opening. And after that we have knight to f3, knight to c6, 4 knights on the board, and after that it's time to fianchetto the bishops. So g3, g6, bishop to g2, and bishop to g7. After that Maxim played d4, he wants to open the d file, and after e capture, knight capture, Luke makes the castle. So this is one typical position with very good development for both of them. Knight to c2, and d6 wants to develop the bishop from the square c8. After that white makes the castle. We have rook to e8, and after that h3. This is a prophylactic move which prevents some idea like knight to g4 with the knight e5, and here black goes with a5. After that we have knight to e3. Idea of the move knight to e3 is to move the knight on the square d5. So bishop to d7 and then bishop to d2. This is a developing move, so he needs to develop this bishop somewhere. If you try the other side, if you try the move b3, that will result with very sharp continuation. Knight to e4 attacks the knight on the square c3. So if the knight capture, then bishop capture the rook on the square a1. So after bishop d7, bishop d2, we have knight to d4, and that offer pawn on the square b7 to take. So white can take it. Let's see what will happen if he takes. So if bishop takes, then bishop can capture on the square h3, attacks the rook on f1. So if bishop capture on a8, queen capture a8, and threat mate on the square g2. If he can sacrifice the rook on e3. So for example, rook to e1 and then rook capture e3, that will result with a mate on the square g2. So after knight d4, we have knight to d5, and then knight capture, c capture, and c5, d capture, b capture on c6, and after that rook to c1. It is time to activate the rooks. So black moves the pawn on d5. That will limit the action of the bishop. So we have rook to e1, and after that h5, e4. It is time to open the e file. So bishop to e6 was played. After that b3, and we have d capture on e4, knight capture on e4, and then bishop to d5. Very good position for a bishop in the middle of the board. So bishop to c3 attacks the knight on d4, and queen b6 supports the knight. After that queen to d2. So after that move, Maxim can move the queen on the squares f4 and g5, which is very good for him. So rook from e to d8, and after that queen to f4, we have c5, and then knight to g5. Queen b7 supports the bishop, and bishops are offered for trade. So bishop capture on the d4. After that bishop capture d4, and we have bishop e4 move. For example, instead of the bishop capture on a d4, if black wants to capture the bishop on g2, so this move, bishop capture on g2, let's see the line. Bishop capture on a g7, after that king capture, and rook capture c5. So he threat to play rook to c7, attack on f7. For example, if black wants to threat mate and playing bishop to h1, then white can completely lock the bishop here, playing f3. Or if he wants to go back with his bishop, to move bishop on the square d5, for example, then rook to c7, and very strong attack on the pawn on the square f7. So after bishop d4, we have bishop d4, and then bishop to e4. So rook to a6, try to activate the rook, or a6 square, and after that to f6, attacking the pawn on f2. So we have bishop capture on a d5, after that rook capture d5, and then rook to e8 gives a check. So king goes to g7, and then queen to e4 pins the rook using the light squares. So rook to f6, attack the pawn on f2. After that, rook to c2, he defend the pawn, and after that, queen to d7. Rook to e7 was the move that the Maxim played. That was a really big blunder because his knight on the g5 is already hanging, and he moves the rook on e7, attacks the queen, but after queen to d6 he resigned the game. Okay, so let's see why he resigned the game. Queen on d6 looked just a natural move. Queen was under attack, so Luke moved the queen on the square d6, but he threatened a lot of things. First of all, he threatened to capture on a g5 this knight with the rook. From the other side, he threatened to use the queen for a strong attack on a white king, and he threatened to capture on the square g3 because white is unable to capture with the pawn. He opens the check from the bishop, and in this position he resigns. So for example, if you try something like h4 to defend the knight, then queen capture on g3, and if the queen blocks the check, then bishop capture on f2, that will completely crash the position around the white king. So if you try some other lines, let's see what you can try to save the knight to f3 for example. Still black can capture on the g3 and completely destroy everything in front of the white king. And in this position, after queen to d6, Maxim just resigned because he don't know what to do with his pieces, and it is completely lost position. That was the game from the round 1 of the Netanya International Grandmaster Tournament. In the future video we will cover more games from that tournament, so I hope you enjoyed in this game analysis, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.